Welcome, everyone, to the Uptown Update. If you're watching us on YouTube, welcome to the first, picture version of the Uptown Update. Reid, we're so excited to be here, aren't we?
We definitely are super excited. And again, like Jack said, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm at the boot right now. So I'm very excited to be here. But yeah, we got a great update episode for all of you, going over some of the off-season happenings around Tulane and New Orleans. And we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely, Reid. I guess first things first, I think the last time we spoke with all of you, we said, hopefully we don't have to do another podcast about coaching changes because that means people have left. And yes, indeed, Coach Hampton left for Oregon, the Oregon Ducks. So Tulane to do defensive coordinator, some other position coaches changed. We'll walk you through that. And we'll also talk a little bit about Tulane's spring pro day before the NFL draft for a few of their graduating players.
That's right, Jack. And don't forget a couple of rumblings going on. I've heard a couple of Pac-12 rumors and then some other things just going on within the team and how the team's looking. Maybe some standout players to look out for next year. A lot of things are going on.
Yeah, never a dull moment with the Tulane Green Wave, especially after such a successful season. A lot of people have a lot to say about Tulane. Reid, you want to get into a little bit of the coaching carousel?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing, the most important thing, is that we have a new defensive coordinator, Shiel Wood. He came from Troy, and he actually led the number two Group of Five defense last year. So we're definitely getting a good one in him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Troy had an outstanding defense, but Reid, before we hired Shiel Wood, we hired Lance Gendry, who was the defensive coordinator for Marshall, who had the number one defense in the Group of Five, and he left after I think it was one practice. He saw our lack of indoor practice facility and said, "Peace, I'm out of here. I'm going to Miami." But that's kind of weird. I think it netted the program $500,000 because they had to buy out his contract, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, we hired Shiel Wood. I think his style is a little bit different than Coach Hamp Reid. I think schematically it's different. Then also like coaching style wise, I think it's a little bit different. You want to talk a little bit about the scheme, Reid?
Yeah, definitely. He definitely prefers to blitz a lot more. I know we talked about, and even the stats behind Troy last year said they limited a lot of big plays, but I think that might be a little bit different just with the competition that Tulane plays. He focuses on that 3-3-5 defense where you have three defensive linemen, three linebackers, and then five defensive backs or safeties, which could yield some pretty strong results. It's clearly worked very well for him. I listened to his first interview with Tulane, and he had a lot of coach speak, but I think he also said some very good things. The funny thing was, he said he wanted to implement hardness in this defense, which means more than just effort, which was exciting to see. I think a lot of Tulane's success last year came not only from the schemes that we ran, but also just from our outlook and our I guess how hard we actually played. So it's exciting to see that he might have some of the same viewpoints as Chris Hampton. He said he also has an attacking style and has a lot of emphasis up front, which I think is going to be very important for Tulane next year after losing Nick Anderson and Dorian Williams. I think our D line is going to have to make a big difference, just really wreaking havoc in the backfield.
Yeah, I think that's good analysis, Reid. This season, Tulane's defense was really led by their linebacking core. Dorian Williams, Nick Anderson have phenomenal years. Both will probably get drafted, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I think you're right. The emphasis and the onus has to shift forward on the defense a little bit to the defensive line. I would expect more defensive line to be in the field at once. I know a lot of times Tulane played a rush three, drop eight system, which was really, really effective in limiting big plays down the field from the opposing team, but also didn't necessarily result in a lot of sacks or negative plays. It was more just like, we're going to grind them out, make them throw incomplete passes, stop the run type deal. I think that's going to be really different under Coach Wood. I think we're going to be trying to go for sacks, trying to go for big plays, turnovers, etc., which, those plays win games, but the double edge sword of that is that sometimes if you're being more aggressive, you can let up a big play over the top. So, we're losing 3 starting safeties, having a little inexperienced secondary. It'll be interesting to see how this new style affects those younger players. Not saying it's a bad idea by any means. I mean, it'll probably work great. It worked great for Troy. But yeah, just something to look out for.
Yeah, definitely, Jack. I think all eyes will be on the defense this next year. Our offense is returning almost everybody besides a couple of receivers and, of course, Ty J. The defense is really going to be important, and Shiel Wood seems like he could be a great replacement for Chris Hampton.
Definitely one of the hottest names out there. And I think it speaks volumes that Tulane lost their defensive coordinator, went out and hired the defensive coordinator for the number 1 G5 defense, lost him, and then the number 2 G5 defense. It's a destination job. That's what that tells me. It's like the best job in the group of 5. If you want to become a Power 5 coordinator or head coach, even, like, go to Tulane, coach there for a few seasons. You'll have success. You'll have good recruits, as evidenced by our last few recruiting classes, good facilities. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the rumbling section, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's a good time to be a greenie, Reid.
It definitely is. Do you want to talk about a couple of the other coaching changes that Tulane is going through this offseason?
Yeah. So another big loss, Reid, was Coach Nagavi, who was our offensive line coach this past year. He's done a phenomenal job developing our O-line prospects like Joey Claybrook, Corey Dublin, Sincere Haynesworth, Josh Remitich, the entire offensive line. And yeah, he's leaving to go to Houston, which is now, I guess, a Power 5 job. But he's gonna be in the same role with them, and I'm sure he's gonna thrive there. He's a great offensive line coach, and Tulane replaced him with a 10-year NFL veteran. Actually, he's a 30-something year NFL veteran, but he spent the last 10 years with the New Orleans Saints. Coach Dan Rauscher is now going to be the offensive line coach. And the Saints have had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for the last 10 years. So Coach Rauscher has been a big part of that, and absolutely thrilled that he's going to be coming to Uptown and helping the Wave.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect hire. If nothing else, he knows New Orleans. He's going to be able to recruit the area extremely well. And add on to that, his NFL experience. And like you said, the Saints have had a ton of success protecting Drew Brees over the years. That's why he's had such a long career. It really does seem like a home run hire for Tulane. And I'm looking forward to see how we can coach up this already pretty veteran offensive line.
Yeah. I think it's going to be more important than ever to have a really solid offensive line, especially when you lose a guy like Taji who can kind of make up for sometimes when the blocking's not perfect. He's going to make the first guy miss and get you a few extra yards than you blocked for. So yeah, but on the plus side, Reid, we're returning 4 of 5 starters on the offensive line. So it's going to be a really, really experienced, solid group. And they already have chemistry in the system with Coach Nagel, with their quarterback and Michael Pratt. So I don't expect it to be a difficult transition by any means.
Definitely, Jack. Things are looking great. Do you want to talk a little bit about Tulane's Pro Day? I know you watched all that today, and you have all the insight for the greenies out there.
Yeah, so we're recording this on March 16th. It was Tulane's Pro Day today. And I watched the wonderful coverage on ESPN Plus. It was commentated by Corey Glore, of course, the voice of the Wave, and also Maddie Hudak, who did a wonderful job being the Robin to Corey's Batman. And yeah, it was fun to watch. I mean, it was cool to see the guys work out. I know we went to a practice a few years ago, Reid, but we hadn't really seen them train or work out before. So seeing how they approach that's cool. But I think the biggest takeaway from the day, Reid, is that all 32 NFL teams were there, and there were over 50 scouts and coaches all over the field. I mean, like, coordinators in the NFL were running the drills. They were talking to players. Mickey Loomis, the GM of the Saints, And what's his name? Dennis Allen, the head coach of the Saints. We're talking to Willie Fritz before the workout started. It's cool to see Tulane get that sort of recognition. I guess Reid, I guess I can talk about a few like individual takeaways from the pro day.
Yeah, definitely go for it.
Yeah, so I guess 40-yard dash is like the big headliner, right? I think Tajay Spears ran a 4.47, which is pretty fast. Definitely going to be one of the faster players in the NFL. I don't know if it's blow you out of the water speed, but I think he kind of makes up for that. If you watch the film, he's obviously very fast and explosive. Um, Nick Anderson also ran a really fast 40-yard dash. I heard it was low 4.5s. I don't have the official time yet, but he looked really, really good. And he looked really good in the 3-cone drill as well. After watching the 3-cone drill, a few of the scouts like looked at their stopwatches and made the little like emoji face. For those watching on or those listening on Spotify, it's the one with the open mouth and the wide eyes. But yeah, I thought Nick had a really good day. He had 21 bench press reps, which is really, really good, especially for a guy his size. Um, let's see, Deuce Watts jumped like out of the stadium. He had a 10.5 broad jump, which is elite. And Shea Wyatt had a 39.5-inch vertical, which is just absurd. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, the individual drills were really cool. Carson Haggard and Kai Horton were the ones throwing the passes in the individual drills, which is pretty interesting. I don't think Michael Pratt's on campus right now. At least that's how it sounded. Or alternatively, they were saying on the broadcast how at the combine, Reid, they have like prospective quarterbacks, so quarterbacks who might be drafted, throwing the passes. And they're wanting to show scouts how great they are at throwing passes during those drills. So they're zipping it to the players, like trying to throw perfect passes as hard, fast they can, focusing on themselves. And so, if Michael Pratt's out there who might be an NFL prospect next year, he could also have that same mindset where he really wants to show out in front of all the scouts and stuff and trying really hard to put zip on it, do a little bit too much, and not necessarily help the guys going through the drills. So that's my theory, at least, of why Haggard and Horton were the ones throwing the passes. But honestly, they looked pretty good. Kai Horton had a few dimes on a few of those deep passes. Will Wallace made a really good catch. And also in the defensive back drills, Macon Clark made a spectacular diving interception. There was no one playing offense, but yeah, a spectacular catch, like 30 yards down the field. That was really cool to see too.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said about having all 32 NFL teams there. It's really important, obviously, for guys like Dorian Williams and Tyjae Spears, who are most definitely going to get drafted. But it's even more important for guys like Nick Anderson or Carson Haggard, who knows? He could be an NFL guy, or really everyone else on the team that's there to get scouts' eyes on you. You never really know what they're going to see, what they really like. And then if they do find something that they like, they might all be back again next year. So I think that's a huge, huge step for Tulane and really says a lot about where the program is. If we can consistently put guys in the NFL every single year, that'd be awesome. And it would give a lot of other guys more looks as well.
Yeah, and I mean we have I think last year was the first year there wasn't a Tulane player drafted in what 6 or 7 drafts. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, Reid, where if you're the best player on Tulane's team, you're gonna go to the NFL. And now it seems like maybe you don't even have to be the best. Like you could be like a top 5, top 10 player on the team and you'll probably get drafted. So that's the way the program's heading, and that's super special and super exciting. I know some people might be a little upset that, maybe Tajay Spears is leaving a year early. He had an extra year of eligibility, but he's leaving for the draft. But that's objectively a good thing for the program. Yeah, we're going to miss his production next year, but that means the next guy is going to have to step up and we're going to get that much more exposure with how good he's going to be in the NFL going to the league a year early. So it's only a good thing that the pro day is so well attended and that we had 11 guys participate, which is a lot. And then also players come for maybe Dorian and Taji, but then they see Nick Anderson work out, or they see Shea Wyatt work out, and they're like, damn, I think this guy is a sleeper. Like, we might have to spend a day 3 pick on him, or give him an undrafted free agent contract or something. So, you know, yeah, good for them. I'm happy for all these players. I'm happy they all had a pretty good workout. So yeah, roll wave, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's definitely all good things. It sounds like it was a very successful pro day for Tulane and all of our future NFL prospects. But do you want to move on to some of the rumblings that we've been hearing around Tulane in the past few weeks?
Yeah, sure. I guess I heard a few things about some players who might have a big impact next season. Slade Nagel on the broadcast of the pro day, and a few other people and players within the team have mentioned Chris Brazel to me, or Chris Brazel. He's I guess he was a freshman this past year, so he'll be a redshirt freshman, from Midland, Texas. He's a former 3-star wide receiver recruit. They said he's had a phenomenal spring. Jarius Monroe said he is, I'm implying here, but he said he's really hard to cover, that he's really good. A few other defensive players have commented on how good he's looked. And he's 6'3", 6'4". So he's going to get all the opportunity on the outside, especially losing Shea Wyatt and Deuce Watts. I think Chris Brazel might have a really big year. And Reid, another guy that Coach Willie Fritz shouted out was Lawrence Keys. He said he really started to come on towards the end of last season. I know he started to return punts towards the end of the year and kicks, and he made a few big plays, had that touchdown in the conference championship game. But he said Lawrence Keys could be a first-team all-conference player. And to put that into perspective, Reid, I think I said that, but I don't know. I might have misspoke. That's like a top 3 NFL draft pick, top 3 rounds. Like, if you're all conference wide receiver in the American Conference, you're getting drafted high. Like, look at the names on the list. That's elite company.
It really is. And any and all wide receiver news is very much welcome. Like you mentioned, losing Shea Wyatt and Deuce Watts this year, 2 of our top receivers. I know that you also mentioned that Jaquan Jackson is getting to campus at 5 a.m. every day to hit the jugs machine
That's
with
right.
Ty J. So if we can just throw in as many receivers' names into the hat, really just fighting for those top targets and top positions, because you know that Pratt's going to put the ball right on the money, right on time. He's going to need someone to throw to, especially with hopefully an NFL worthy campaign coming up next year. Any receiver news would be very much welcomed.
Yeah, I think watching like the Cotton Bowl, Reid, I thought that every position on the field, Tulane was pretty competitive. I mean, Michael Pratt's really good, but Caleb Williams is like the best quarterback in college football. He's really good. So maybe not quarterback, but the other position I wanted to point out was wide receiver. I thought that their wide receivers were way better than ours. And that's no disrespect to our wide receivers. I'm just saying that the USC guys are elite athletes, and like Jerry Rice's son.
Yeah.
So they're really good. So having that sort of talent, like, I guess, develop or get healthy and start to play, is going to be huge for this program. And that's one step where that's one area we can make a big step.
Yeah, and it seems like we're going to. And since you mentioned USC, I also want to bring up some Pac-12 rumors that we've been hearing. Tulane is a possible candidate to join the Pac-12. Now, these are just rumors at this point, and we've heard these kind of rumors before with the Big 12, but it could be pretty interesting. I don't know how I feel about playing on the West Coast and having super late games, but if the money's there, I don't see why Tulane wouldn't join if given the offer.
Yeah, who knows how legit they are, or it could just be, someone making something up. But it's still kind of fun to talk about and speculate about, and everyone likes to talk about conference realignment, so we thought may as well. Yeah, Reid, I don't want to do it this way. Like I can give a few pros and you can give a few cons, and then you can give a few pros, so I can give a few cons. I don't know. How's
Yeah,
that sound?
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that works for me.
Okay. So I'll say, like, first, obviously, is the money. like we would presumably get close to $25 million from the TV deal, and then a lot more exposure because our logo would be next to all the other Pac-12 logos. So that would help the program. And then I guess the other pro would be like kind of like once you get invited to the cool kids table, you're like one of the cool kids, and like other people would like you to sit at their table too, if that makes sense. Maybe the Pac-12 isn't the best move, but the other people see we're in the Pac-12, and then all of a sudden the SEC is like, oh, hey, Tulane, come over here, you know?
Yeah, those are definitely two pros. But I would also say some of the cons. The first one that's very obvious is the travel. And I assume this wouldn't just be for a couple of sports. This would be every single sport. And that alone would cost a ton of money. It'd be harder to watch some of the games possibly, depending on what the new Pac-12 TV deal is. So I'd definitely be worried about that. And then even if we do get that brand exposure and sit at the cool kids table, I guess a counter argument would be the Pac-12 isn't really in a great position right now. They just lost a couple of teams to the Big Ten, and there is a possibility that the Pac-12 just dissolves and Tulane is homeless and might have to find a new conference, just basically starting back at square one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with those. I also think that um in the stage that Tulane's in right now, you're really starting to build up a fan base again in New Orleans, and a lot of the alumni are on the East Coast. You want as much exposure to those people that are going to support you as possible. You know, you want games to start at convenient times for people in New Orleans, New York, I don't know, Philly, Chicago, wherever Tulane alumni are. Uh,
Miami.
Miami, Dallas, right? Uh, and if they're starting at 10 p.m. Central Time, it's going to be tough to get good viewership numbers and for people to really get engaged with their team.
Yeah, definitely. And for now, fortunately, these are just rumors. I don't want to think about it too much because it's very scary. And like we said, there are a lot of pros and cons, and we don't really know how it would turn out. But for now, they're just rumors. And I'm happy for it to stay that way for a little bit longer until we get something concrete here.
Yeah. Reid, do you have a destination that would be perfect for Tulane? Like, do you want to stay in the AAC, or do you want to move to another conference, or what do you think?
I mean, for the next couple of years, selfishly, I'd like to stay in the American. I know for money, it's probably not the best, but for playoff chances, the American Conference is poised every year to send one team to the playoffs, and that would be really exciting. That would be a lot of exposure. If it weren't the American, I'd love to dominate the SEC. I'm sure we could do just as well as Vanderbilt, if not better. So, and we're a founding member. But
That's
yeah,
true.
for now, American. Maybe in a couple years, the SEC will take a look at us.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather be a Tulane fan or a Vanderbilt fan right now?
That's an easy question,
I
at
don't
least
know.
for me.
Yeah, but I also think that should kind of put into perspective the conversation we're having, right? Like just because you're in a Power Five conference doesn't mean you've got a great athletics program. Like a lot of them do, but it's not a 100% rule. Like sometimes you just don't put all the pieces together. So I don't know. I think the perfect spot for us, Reid, would be the and sort of most realistic would be the ACC. So just trading one A for one C, and playing against Clemson, Florida State, similar schools like Duke, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, um, Syracuse, kind of like more high profile private schools with similar student bodies. I think that would be a natural fit, and it also wouldn't be a crazy amount of travel as well. And they might be more inclined to add teams if they feel like they're falling behind the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the ACC would be a lot more willing to add a team like Tulane than the SEC. So there's a lot to chew on here. There's a lot to think about. But like I said, for now, nothing concrete, but conference realignment is happening every year. So we better be ready for this conversation all the time.
Yeah, we better be ready. We might be having this podcast talk more often in the future. We will see. But I think that's pretty good for an off-season episode, Reid. We've got other stuff to talk about for sure. In future episodes, we've got the upcoming American Conference schedule for this next year. We've got NFL draft results to talk about once those happen. We've got recruiting over the summer. That's going to be a big topic. See how kind of the tailwind of the Cotton Bowl and the conference championship helps recruiting. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Every single day, we're getting closer to the 2023 Tulane Greenway football season. And man, I am so excited.
Can't wait. All right, roll wave.
Roll wave.